Hey everybody, happy Halloween. What better movie to talk about on Halloween than Halloween, the franchise? I thought it would be fun to talk about my thoughts on the whole franchise. It's my favorite horror movie series, really. It's my favorite slasher series. Michael Myers has always been my favorite. So I'm going to talk about my experience watching these movies, and I'll talk about some of the 4K Blu-rays from Shout Factory. I have a few of them. I don't have the whole series, but I just thought I'd give my brief thoughts on them and talk about the transfer, things like that, just for fun. The first movies, I saw them all out of order. The first two I saw were Halloween 4 and 5. And some of you might remember back in the day, AMC on cable used to play these movies on repeat a lot during the Halloween season in October. And that's how I watched a lot of them. I was probably too young to be watching them. I don't think my parents probably would have wanted me to be watching them, but I watched them regardless. And 4 and 5 were the first ones I saw because for some reason they played them often on that channel. So 4 was the first one I saw. I didn't really understand the whole franchise or how it worked, even though if you're a fan, you know the whole timeline thing is a mess. But I really liked that movie. Now, Michael's mask in 4 is, of course, very goofy and everything like that. But yeah, let's go back a little bit. I just want to tell you those are my first two I saw. So, Halloween, the original, I don't think much needs to be said about it. It's a masterpiece. I love the atmosphere of the film. I love what Carpenter did with a low budget, and I love that's my favorite. I think it's a lot of people's favorite just because of the stalker aspect to it, the boogeyman aspect. Michael kind of really does feel scary, and his motives are very unclear in that movie, and it just makes for a wonderful movie. Not much more needs to be said. It's a masterpiece. This is the 4K. Sorry for that glare, but 4K from Scream Factory, Shout Factory. They came out with a box set a couple years ago, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And I don't think they sell the box set for the first five anymore, but you can still buy them individually. So I have the first one. It comes with a 4K of the film, it comes with a Blu ray, and it comes with a Blu ray with the original color timing, which is pretty cool. You don't see that often. Um, and I believe on the 4K disc, I'm not entirely sure. Um, yeah, I'm not sure which one it's on, but it's on the third one. There's an extended cut, which I didn't even know existed until a couple of years ago, like when this first came out. Um, there's a extended cut that ties it into the second movie. Of course, the second movie is the one where we learn that Michael and Laurie are siblings. So they wanted to tie that in and add a few scenes, and it doesn't really add much to the film. I've never been the biggest fan of that sibling storyline, but it's cool nonetheless to have. Great transfer, really does look excellent. Great sound. It's a really really good 4K. They did a great job. Halloween 2. Sometimes I feel like Halloween 2 is one of the more forgotten sequels because I just don't see people talk about it as often as you would think. Uh, it's not my favorite sequel. My favorite sequel is Halloween 4. But it is really solid. And of course, it's like a two-parter. It takes place on the same night, and it picks up right where the first one left off. As a matter of fact, I believe it even starts with the ending of Halloween 1, so it's not even where it left off, it overlaps. I think they reshot it. Yeah, I like that movie. I have a few complaints with it. I mean, tonally, it is pretty close to the first one. Like, I can't remember who directed it. Might have been Tommy Lee Wallace. I'm not entirely sure. I know Carpenter worked on the script for that one, but they tried to make it feel like the first one, and I do think they were successful. It certainly looks and feels like the first one. They went a little more of a violent route with it, and that was Carpenter's own doing. He felt that slashers of the time were becoming more violent and more bloody, and he was the one that went in and wanted to add some of that. I think that is part of what I don't really like about it is that it does lose some of the tonality from the first film. Some of the kills are it's compared to modern stuff, it's not that violent, but just tonally a little bit off. And then the first part of the movie I do really like. Michael seeing through his point of view, the voyeuristic aspect again is really cool. He kind of unnecessarily kills a random person, and I think it's just to raise the body count of the movie. But once we get into the hospital that is bizarrely empty for some reason, then the movie to me really slows down. Like it becomes kind of a slog for like an hour or so. And then I think the ending is pretty great. So I like Halloween 2. I think it's great. It's a great sequel. It's a very solid slasher. Halloween 3, I didn't see for a while. Back when I was basically a kid, like probably 12 or 13. And I remember watching it on TV, and this was before I had internet. Like, I think I had dial up internet at the time. So I couldn't just go to Wikipedia and look up a plot summary. And I kept asking myself, what is the plot of this movie? Where is Michael? When is he going to show up? And then finally getting the picture that he's not in this. Of course, Michael is killed off at the end of Halloween 2, as well as Loomis, presumably, and they wanted to end that and start making an anthology series out of it. And of course, it didn't work out, which is why we got Halloween 4 in 1988 or whatever. But honestly, I really like Halloween 3. I like the vibe of it. It's not an amazing movie, it's kind of low budget. It has that early 80s cheese factor to it a bit. But I don't know, it's very fun. It's quite violent compared to some of the other movies, surprisingly so. And it has some gnarly body horror in it that I've always forget about with the bugs and some of the stuff with heads, and it can be kind of gross at times. Yeah, I really like that movie. I always have. I have a soft spot for it. It's one of my favorite sequels. Then we get to Halloween 4. The only complaint is the mask. I know that a lot of people don't like the mask. I even kind of like it. It's that weird, blank, expressionless mask that, like, some people call it the Michael Jackson mask. It is very odd, but there is something creepy about it, and the stiffness. I think it was George P. Wilbur playing Michael, who had all these shoulder pads on. It made him weirdly stiff. Yeah, I mean, Danielle Harris is, an icon. She was a great child actress. She's great in that film. I think it was the character Rachel in that movie was also a great character. And yeah, that movie, as people have said, has a very autumnal vibe to it. It has a very fall-oriented vibe that really works. Again, none of the sequels are like masterpieces, but I think it's a really solid flick. And the ending is really shocking. The ending, the first time I saw it, the ending freaked me out. It was like, whoa, I was not expecting that. And then Halloween 5, they completely just scrapped that, and it was so frustrating to watch that for the first time, watch 4, then 5, to see how they just totally said, oh, okay, never mind about that. And yeah, that movie to me is one of the weakest films in the franchise. 4 was so successful at the box office that they immediately started to work on 5, and they started shooting that movie before they had even finished the script. That's not a good sign, right? And it shows. The movie to me is like nothing. It is bizarre how they kill off a main character immediately in the movie, and you're left with characters you've never met before that pale in comparison to the previous characters and are not written well. Danielle Harris, who is, again, a great child actress, is basically mute the entire movie. Michael's mask is, again, bizarrely redesigned, which from a continuity standpoint makes no sense. And the movie just feels like one long chase movie for me. There's not much to it. And the last bit of the movie after the barn sequence with Michael just driving around in a car chasing people, it's kind of, yeah, I don't like that movie. I don't absolutely hate it, but it is one of the weaker ones that if I have a choice, I'm not going to pick it. Interesting behind the scenes. I don't have the 4K of that one, but I have seen it and watched a lot of the behind the scenes footage with my friend. And there's some very interesting stuff on it. So definitely, if you have that one, definitely check out the special features. But yeah. Then we get to Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, which I want to say was 1995. Here's the Scream Factory one. And by the way, all these Scream Factory ones, if you have these or you want to get them and you don't like this cover that they've done, you can just take it out and flip it around, and they have the original cover on the back, which is a really nice touch. Anyways, it was a while before I got to see this, and the disc just fell out, which they tend to do these days. And I was excited just because, in Halloween 5, they start showing the Man in Black, they start showing the thorn symbol on Michael's wrist, and it's like, ooh, what is that? It's an interesting mystery. Well, they didn't know. They didn't know what they were doing, and truly, they didn't know. They were just putting shit in, and they did not know where they were going with it. Halloween 6 is, very, I guess, controversial. It's definitely seen as one of the weaker entries, which it is. I remember when I first watched, I was so excited to see where they went with the Thorn thing. And the credit I will give this team that made this is they at least tried. They tried to wrap up that storyline or make something of it. it becomes kind of a mess with the whole cult subplot and everything. And yeah, the movie is famously has tremendous production troubles. It's had many reshoots. Donald Pleasance, who plays Loomis, of course, died near the end of the production process before they could do reshoots, and it just shows like they had to cut around a lot of stuff. So this one, so first off, the 4K, it looks okay, but it doesn't look as good as I thought it would. It kind of looks like a decent, like a really good Blu-ray. So I will say that this 4K, and I've seen a lot of the other ones, and this one did not impress me as much, but it's fine. I don't want you to think it looks bad. Um, the movie is a mess. Like I recently rewatched it, and it is a mess. Like it is edited weirdly. You can tell, if you watch that one a lot and you know the behind the scenes, you start to see all the bizarre choices that they made, the way they cut around things. The ending is so incredibly bizarre, the way it's cut. And then you have the producer's cut, which I was like looking into that back in the day when that was just like bootleg. Like people were trading VHS copies of it. There was maybe one or two files floating around the internet that were hard to get a hold of. And I think I eventually got a hold of a copy of it and watched some of it. But now it comes with a 4K disc. It actually comes with a separate disc of the producer's cut, which is really cool. Something I never thought would happen. As shitty as this movie is, it's very cool that it exists. The producer's cut is bad in its own special way. There's more of the cult plot line, which I don't really like. But it is less violent, which again, like violence in a slasher is what you want, but the theatrical cut kind of goes over the top a little bit with the violence. And the way Jamie's character dealt with is a little bit better in the producer's cut. And certain things do make more sense. Like you'll see scenes where you were like, oh, that scene was supposed to be here. That makes more sense. They would take scenes and randomly splice them in, and the whole movie was a mess. So yeah, anyways, I'm going on and on. This movie is not very good, but it's at least one that's interesting to watch just because of all the history behind it. And then we come to H2O, which is a pretty decent 4K. It's a big step up over Curse of Michael Myers. It's bizarrely a very dark disc. The movie is kind of dark, but even in the daylight scenes, it's definitely more dim. I will say that. But the picture is a lot better. I really liked this movie when I first saw it when I was younger. I liked the way it wrapped up the series, even though it doesn't. I liked the way it just went from 1-2 to H2O. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis is really good in this. And I like what they did with her character, with she's a dean at a school, I think, and she's an alcoholic because of what she dealt with and everything like that. And I like this movie. My opinion has soured on it over time, but I still think it's decent. I think that it's basically a Scream movie, which it kind of is. It came out around the same time, maybe a year before, or maybe the same year. I can't remember when Scream came out. Same production company, I think, and it literally uses the Scream score. So the tone of this movie is kind of off for a Halloween movie the more I watch it. It just feels like Scream. It has that vibe, but honestly, it's okay. Besides all of that, the biggest problem is the masks. The main mask, I can't remember the guy's name. It might have been Chris Durand who played Michael. He does a good job. It's just the mask is that spiky hair and the huge eye holes where you can see his eyes the whole time. I don't know. I don't really like the way Michael looks in this. And of course, you have all of the different masks. The opening scene uses the Halloween 6 mask for some reason. They use that really bad KNB mask in a couple of shots, which they redid, but it's still in some shots you can clearly see. And then there's the infamous CGI mask, which looks terrible. So this movie's also got some production issues. I don't know. But I always liked it. I love the ending, which of course they retcon, but I really like the ending. It's a decent movie. Don't like it as much, but it's okay. Then we get to probably the best Halloween movie in the franchise, Halloween Resurrection. I know people don't like this one, but it is by far I'm just kidding. This movie's terrible. I think we all know that. Like some of the ones that are not great, like 6 and 5, like they're still fun. This one is so messy. It is like, I know people hate this, but honestly, there is like this bizarre, like uncanny valley aspect to this film. It's so weird. Like Busta Rhymes doing kung fu and shit. It's It's like so weird. Um, I do like a few things about it. I do love that campiness aspect because it's so fucking ridiculous. Like you have to laugh at it. Like crispy fried Mikey. Like some of the lines are ridiculous. Um, I do like the haunted house aspect. Like, of course, Michael's house gets bigger and bigger and weirder as the series goes on. I like that most of this takes place in his house with him stalking them, even though the story is absolutely ridiculous. I love haunted house flicks and that kind of prey stalking or predator stalking prey kind of thing. So I do kind of like that. But yeah, this movie is a disaster. Like the way they retconned like, and that was planned. Like I'm pretty sure it was Malik Akkad that was like, you can cut his head off, but he's coming back, and you have to do it this way. And yeah, the way they kill off Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's a disaster. But yeah, this one actually looks really good on 4K. If I could say anything good about it, it does look great. Like H2O and this one look really fantastic on 4K, like, and have great audio tracks as well. So yeah, this movie's a mess, but yeah, it's okay. There's a lot of special features on here too, and a lot of alternate endings, which are, they didn't know how to end this movie, and that shows, but it's fun to watch. Then we have the Rob Zombie movies, which I'm not a big fan of. I like Rob Zombie. I'm not the biggest fan, but I really like House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects. That's kind of it. Like, I've seen Lords of Salem, that was okay. I've seen The Munsters, that was not okay. I haven't seen Three from Hell, and I haven't seen 31. I think that's it. I think that's all he's done. Yeah, Rob Zombie's hit or miss for me. Like, I think he's great at doing crazy hillbilly characters and like over the top exploitative stuff. But I just think he was a bad choice for the franchise. I always have said that I think he would have been a much better choice to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because the humor and shit like that he throws in would have worked, especially, having seen or having Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is like almost a parody of the first movie. That sort of grindhouse aspect. Yeah, he would have been much better for something like that. I think he actually would have worked. Yeah, I just don't think he works for Halloween. It's too violent. Again, don't get me wrong. I love violence and I love crazy slashers, but I just think for the character of Michael, it gets way out of hand. I have warmed up to the first one a little bit, though the second one I never have. I think it's pretty terrible. It's one of my least favorite sequels. Then I'm going to quickly go through the David Gordon Green movies, which are a mess. One thing I see people say about them is at least they have higher production values, and I don't agree. Having watched a lot of these movies recently, again, some of the 90s ones have way better production values than the David Gordon Green movies. I actually think they look kind of cheap. A lot of modern movies do look pretty cheap. Their cinematography is not great. There's so many writers. I know that, Danny McBride and Gordon Green wrote the script, but if you look at the credits, there's a lot of writers, and that's never a good sign. That means a lot of rewrites. 2018 was decent. I think it was overstuffed. I think like there were too many characters and plot lines that they were trying to cram in. You had the reporters trying to show Michael the mask and get a reaction, and then that took up a lot of screen time. And then you have Jamie Lee Curtis with this PTSD angle that I think was covered better in H2O, and then you have Allison, and then you have Karen, and it's just like way too much. But I was like cautiously optimistic. And then Kills comes out. If you like just Michael killing folk, then you love Kills, or I know a lot of people that do like it because of that. I think that movie is horrible. The script is absolutely atrocious. Some of the kills are just, it's like ridiculous. I don't like the direction they took Michael. It's basically just a Jason Voorhees clone, and that I don't like his portrayal. And they were also very adamant throughout the process, and I remember following this series closely, that Michael was not going to be supernatural, and you can tell in the first movie they're really trying to go for that grounded angle, which I thought was refreshing when I first saw that, and it completely goes out the window because they wrote themselves into a corner. They didn't know what they were doing. So yeah, that movie's terrible, and then we get Halloween Ends, which has some good things going for it, I will say. I was so disappointed when I first saw it. But it does have some interesting aspects to it. I think we all know, like the Corey thing, interesting ideas, but it feels like a backdoor pilot for a TV series. It's clearly, and I think most would agree, it's not something you can just do in an hour and 45-minute movie. You need to have introduced that character at least in the previous movie, but ideally in the first movie of that trilogy. So that movie ends up being a mess. Michael's barely in it. The whole thing is a disaster. I think it's a terrible film. I don't know. It's hard to say which one I like the least between Kills and Ends, but Ends might just do it just because of how much of a mess it is, and every aspect of that story. It's like, okay, now we need to get Corey to Allison so that they can fall in love, and it all happens so quickly, and you can always see what they're doing. The movie really doesn't trust the intelligence of the audience, which, yeah, it's a dumb slasher movie, but it's just so poorly written and on the nose at many times, and yikes. Anyways, that's the series. There's a lot I don't like. There's a lot that I don't care for. I'll still watch because they're fun, and then there's ones that I love. Um, yeah, there's a game coming out next year, which is cool. There's also a lot of novelizations of the movies, which I've heard are pretty decent if you're into that sort of thing. I don't think a lot of people know that. There's novelizations for most of the films that go into way more detail, including the new trilogy. There's books of all of those movies as well, written by some authors I've read before actually. And yeah, we'll see where the series goes. Who knows? It's obviously not over. It will never be over. People will keep coming to see these. Anyways, I love Halloween. I love Michael Myers. Let me know what your favorites are. I'm sure some are different than mine. That's totally cool. I want to hear. And yeah, what your favorite franchise is. If it's Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever. Yeah, peace out. Have a great Halloween. I'll see you next time.